Hi and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. This is going to be my most recent weekly wrap-up. So, as part of my I seriously need to finish that challenge that I am doing this year, I read Seawatch Rising by Sarah Henning, and this is the sequel to Seawitch by Sarah Henning. It's a duology, and in case you haven't watched my wrap up where I talk about the first book, I'll just briefly summarise my thoughts. And I felt like the first book was really like, I believe I used the term tentacle tease, because I didn't feel like I got Ursula in the first book at all, and that was my main critique, because I had picked it up going into it knowing it was like an Ursula origin story, and we didn't really get to see a lot of Ursula as Ursula, so that was quite disappointing. And I was only planning to pick up the second book because I was hoping that it would pick up where the first book left off, and that we would get a lot more of the sea witch in this, as opposed to it just being like her as a human before she was turned. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't read the first book. But this book was so disappointing. I really didn't enjoy it. I am gutted to have spent money on it. I'm gutted to have spent time reading it, and it was terrible. So it does pick up after the first book, but it picks up years and years and years and years later after, well, she's not called Ursula in this, but she's called Evie. So after, like, years and years after Evie is already a well-established sea witch, so we didn't get to come on that journey with her, which is sort of what I was hoping for. And this is basically just a Little Mermaid retelling, this one, and again, like, there's not a whole lot of Evie / Ursula in this, which is the main reason I picked it up. So I feel like that was so disappointing. And it's just dull. I didn't care about any of the characters in this other than Evie, and I really only cared about Evie because, like, I care about Ursula, so it's the only reason that I really cared. I didn't care about Evie's character in particular. I just wanted to get, like, the Ursula-ness out of her character, and I wasn't really getting that, which was really disappointing. There are, like, so many subplots in this book that I just don't care about. There's, like, the whole, like, Little Mermaid-y subplot, and I just did not care, like, could not have given any fucks about, so that was frustrating. And then there's, like, this whole other subplot where, like, the, like, Triton, is that his name, what's he called, where the Sea King is trying to, like, manipulate his people into rising up and attacking the humans, and they're using, like, submarines, and I can't even remember the type of boats, but, like, a specific type of boat as the reason as to why they should do that. He's trying to basically make out that it's a bigger threat to, like, them as a species than what it actually is, and I just didn't care about it. And there's, like, weird flower drug use that I just didn't care about. Like, I just wanted some fun times with Ursula, learning about how she became a witch, like, and how she became a sea witch, and that just didn't happen. I mean, the writing isn't great, and I knew that the writing wasn't great for the first book, so, like, I was just hoping I was going to get me Ursula, really, and I didn't. So I was gutted, absolutely devastated. Didn't recommend it to anybody. If you've read the first one and you're going to pick up the second one hoping that you'll get more out of the second one than you did the first, don't, because you won't. Learn from my lessons. So I rated this a 1 star. It was awful, but that's another series ticked off the list. Then, on a happier note, I read The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Just continuing my love affair with the man. This was brilliant. I'm sure everybody knew that. I'm quite late to the party on this, so most people have read this. I had not, and it was brilliant. It was a really fun time. So Grady Hendrix basically says in the foreword that he wanted to write a book where it was his suburban mum versus Dracula, and, like, he nailed it. It was so amazing. The humour in this book is next level. It was so funny at points, so funny, from like the mums all getting together and moaning about like the trials and tribulations of suburban housewife life, to their husbands just not really caring about what is going on in their lives whatsoever. And it was just great. It was so spot on. The characters in this book were brilliant as well. I really cared about our main character, and I absolutely detested her husband. There was some great social commentary in this book around like a woman's place in society and a woman's place within the household, and how even though like you're married to this person and they are your spouse, like they will still see you as less than their male friends and male partners and anybody with any air of authority who is a male in society. And there's also some really great social commentary in here around racism and around the media, and how basically if it's a white kid that goes missing or is being murdered, the media is all over that, and if it is a black kid from a more deprived neighbourhood, that nobody really cares, and it'll maybe take a good few of them to go missing before anybody actually takes notice. So some really hard-hitting, great social commentary in here, on top of the humour, on top of the fact that this was basically just a love affair of like vampire cliche, and it was great. I had such a fun time reading it. I read it within like 2 days, I think, because I just could not put it down. It was absolutely fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. As usual with Grady Hendrix, he had me laughing and being grossed out in equal measure, which is just exactly what I need for a horror novel. It was fantastic, and I rated this a 5-star. It was just so fantastic. There was creepiness that will stay with me from this book, which is phenomenal, and I think that the characters will stay with me. I was like hate texting Ange because she had read this, and I was just like, see these fucking husbands, like I was so angry about it, like he made me so raging. And again, like when it came to like the racism side of things, I was like hate texting her, being like, oh my fucking god, I am so angry right now. That's how good a book it is, that it managed to evoke the emotions in me. So read it if you haven't read it. Highly recommend. I think that it's actually really accessible if you aren't a huge horror fan. I think that a lot of other Grady Hendrix's books like nod to different horror, whether it's horror films or horror tropes or horror novels. I feel like this one doesn't do that. So if you haven't read a Grady Hendrix before, I think that this is a really accessible starting point. And if you maybe aren't a huge horror fan, you'll not feel like a lot of the references are going over your head, which I think is great. But you know what, I'm going to call it, right? This might be my favourite Grady Hendrix I've read so far. Like, and that's saying something. So that's everything I have been reading this week. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!